Said he did it, buried out in the wrecking yard. So he put Derek up in an airplane and started taking pictures. And we didn't have emails that you could send pictures on. They were faxing pictures. And so it was horrible. The pictures that we were getting, showed him the pictures and he put an X on it. And we found her right there. And she was wearing the clothes that he said that she was wearing. And he said that when he had put her in the hole to stuff her in, he said, "I think I broke her leg." Her leg was broke. And when we exhumed her, we got every bone back except for the hyoid bone. And the pathologist said that is the if you have someone that's strangled, your hyoid bone will break, and it's the first to decompose. So this goes hand in hand with what he said that he had done.
Okay, can you introduce yourself for me, please?
My name is Alex Boyer. I'm a deputy sheriff for the Gooding County Sheriff's Office in Idaho.
Alex, so how long have you been with the Gooding County Sheriff's Office?
I started with the sheriff's office here in 2002.
Okay. So last week I did episode 75 with Neil Martin, and I'm sure you know him. He looks like a kid, is a kid in my mind anyway. But tell me the relationship there between the Gooding County Sheriff's and the Gooding Police Department. Sounds like you guys give them awful lot of help in terms of kind of guidance and stuff, being a young detective versus you guys who have been on the job for a long time.
We do. They're the only other law enforcement agency in the county other than us and the state police. Um, so anything that goes on here that's of any consequence, felonies, we usually assist them in because the city police department's a pretty young department at this time. A lot of younger cops that are there, and we have a more elderly, if you will, department.
How's that relationship though? I know in some cities there's a, I don't want to say animosity, maybe a conflict between a local police department and a sheriff's office. How is it here?
Oh, you have to fight those guys. You got to hate the city cops. You got to hate the state cops. You got to hate the federales. It's the sheriff's office or nothing else. No, we get along very well with them. They work hand in hand with us. If you don't work hand in hand with them, you're missing out on probably 50% of the intel that you could possibly have because the bad guys don't just stay out in the county.
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, it seems like it's a manpower issue.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. So give me a little bit of background, Alex. Tell me about why'd you get into law enforcement?
I'm a third generation out of my family. My dad's uncle was the sheriff of Gooding County in the early 50s. He went on to be with the FBI. He left the position of sheriff to join the FBI. My father was in law enforcement for almost 30 years, 16 of which was with the sheriff's office here. I grew up with it, and talking about driving fast and seeing different things and helping people. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, so it's always just kind of was a family thing. You always wanted to do it
Right.
from the very beginning. Well, was it, give me an idea. I mean, obviously you were growing up with it. Have any idea of your earliest recollection of, yeah, I think I want to do what my dad wants to do?
Um, my dad had already been in it for over 10 years when I was born. He was the chief deputy at the time when I was born, and the sheriff that he worked for was Robert Aha. And I can remember being a kid and watching how Robert talked to people and how he was honest with them and just kind of how he treated everybody and the results that he got out of how he treated the public. I thought, man, everybody looks up to that guy. That
So from the very beginning, you wanted to go into law enforcement. What kind of student were you? What'd you do when you were growing up? And was there anything, knowing that you wanted to go into law enforcement, was there anything that you kind of did to kind of prepare yourself as you were growing up?
Yeah, I wasn't the best student. I had to be on the honor roll, so I didn't get punched out at home. Uh, you had to stay on the honor roll, be able to have insurance for the car so that you go chase the girls.
Well, you're on the honor roll, so you're obviously not a horrible student, right?
Well, I bought a horse from a teacher so that I could pass a class. If that give you any idea of
Okay.
the long time ago, you had to do what you could to survive.
Okay.
And in high school, I rode with Sheriff Goff and his deputies at least once a week, probably every weekend, all the way through going to high school.
Wow. So from a young age, you did ride-alongs the whole
Yes,
the whole time.
yes.
Did you ever learn anything? I mean, it was like, doing those ride-alongs at such a young age. Was there anything that surprised you? I mean, obviously you have a family background that's in law enforcement. Did you ever, but riding around with these guys doing ride-alongs, did you ever go, ah, crap, I never thought about that?
One of the things that I learned uh, through Sean and the deputies that I rode with at the time, uh, it doesn't really matter what you say to those people; it's how you say it. And that has that's one of the things that I do for the sheriff's office now is the interviews. If we have a big interview, there's a high likelihood it's going to be me that's going to be in there talking to the people and learning that you can say about anything that you want, but it's how you say it. It's how you sell it to them to get them to. For example, if you call somebody just an outright asshole, it's one thing if you say, "Dude, you're an asshole," or if you go, "Dude, you're an asshole." It's a completely different deal.
Hmm.
And now they're laughing with you, maybe, whatever the case may be. But how you how you sell what you're saying to them matters.
So where do you think you got that from? Because y- I think it's fair to say that you kind of developed a specialty to talk to people like that and interview people. Where do you think that came from?
I've always been a talker. Uh, I've always I'll talk to anybody. You talk to anybody that knows me. If I'm somewhere and I see something weird going in a restaurant or something, I'll say something to somebody, and then pretty quick we're talking. And that's just how it's always been for me.
Hmm. When you were in high school, were you into any sports, anything like that?
No, I was into music.
Okay. Which I think is interesting because I listen to, that you have these famous personalities out there like a Adam Carolla or a Jimmy Dore, and part of what they have this in their mind is it's only the dumb jocks that get into law enforcement. But clearly that isn't the case with you.
Oh, I was a fancy musician. Just no, I actually started out as a music major because my dad did not want me to be a cop.
Really?
It caused a great family rift when I told him that I had quit music school and had got into the law enforcement program at CSI.
What up until that point, before getting into CSI, what did you want to do with the music?
I was going to go be a music teacher.
Oh, okay. So you get into CSI. How does your dad take that? Does he finally accept it, or is there a big battle about it? Is there a discussion? What happens?
Oh, we had a up close and personal face to face on Christmas Eve over it.
Why didn't he want you going into law enforcement?
Um, I think that I think parents inherently want their kids to do better than them, and in law enforcement, in order to do anything, you have to start at the bottom. You're
Hmm.
not going to just tee off at the top. You're going to have your feet down in the mud a little bit. And I music teacher, you're off through the summers. You don't have any nights. You don't have to work any holidays. no dead people. Uh, I think he just wanted maybe a happier life, if that's
What looking looking and I didn't ask, is your dad still alive?
yes.
Okay, so your dad's still alive. Does what how do you think the job affected him? I mean, obviously you talk about him wanting you to have a happier life. Um, do you think the job affected him negatively?
Yeah, I know that he left the sheriff's office because of the cases that were that he was having to take care of. He was the chief deputy, but they had no detective. And at that time is when I think health and welfare had really started pushing the if you got an uncle that's touching you where you shouldn't and you don't know where to go, you got to tell somebody. And he told me, he said we would have like one child molestation case a year, maybe two.
Mhm.
And then when that push went out, he said we were flooded with them, just absolutely flooded with them. And he was doing all of it. There was no cares. He was having to go in and talk to the kids. He was having to talk to the parents. He was having to talk to the suspects. And then you have to deal with the whole judicial process. And it burned him out.
Yeah, so those cases are really tough to deal with. So give me an idea if 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 you know what kind of support was he getting from his department at the time as opposed to maybe what you guys are getting now? Has there been kind of uh, a realization of what those type of cases do for officers?
So it's tough. It's those cases are very tough, and they become more tough if you have kids. Um, then there was no support. You went home and you drank about it, and that's how you tried to get over it. We have a now we have and honestly it's a joke, an extra insurance of EAP
Mm-hmm.
for counseling for us. It covers 3 sessions. So if you can't get it parked in 3 sessions, well, you got to wait till next year to talk about that some more. You're going to get to eat some counseling fees.
Wow.
Um,
So do you utilize that
I
at
have
all?
in the past, yes,
Okay. Wow. So 3 sessions a year is kind of what you're limited to.
yes,
And I'm assuming during your dad's time there was nothing like
no,
that.
absolutely not.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so let's get into your career a little bit. So you go to CSI, College of Southern Idaho, to
Yes,
get your, what is it, criminal justice degree?
I got a technical certificate in it.
Okay. And from that, from that point, what is it? Do you just kind of, is it a shotgun approach? Um, how do you end up in the position that you get, the first position you get?
So I graduated in May of '01.
How old are you?
I was 19,
Okay.
and I had been riding quite a little bit out here with the Gooding deputies, and they had some SWAT training, and I played a bad guy in the SWAT training, and part of the SWAT team was from Jerome, and the sheriff over there it was an observer for the training, and he offered me a job after that. He said, "I want you to fight those guys," and he said, "You didn't give up." I'm 19 years old, and he had a job opening that October, so he swore me in the 3rd of October of '01.
So I'm curious, you end up working for Jerome Jail
Yes.
first. Why didn't it was it you had been doing ride-alongs with Gooding County? Did you try and apply with them first, or they just didn't have an opening?
Nobody quit over here at that time.
Okay.
When you got a job here, those guys stayed. They were all local people. That's one of the things that Sheriff Goff, I think, has really excelled at is he's hired local people, and it's people that what's going on in the community. They know how to talk to the people. They know when oh, I'm going over to his house. I need to have some help. but it was all local people here. It was people that had gone to high school here, and nobody left.
Why is that? Was the environment good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about leadership because, I know Sean has been the sheriff here for a long time.
Yes.
And just for the audience, I don't know what episode it is, but Sean Goff, sheriff, uh, really good interview in my mind. He tells a really good story about the guy blowing himself up. So uh, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that interview. But tell me a little bit about, as best as you can, his leadership style. What makes him a good leader, and what makes him the people around him want to stay?
Sean is a working sheriff. He has never asked. Derek and I have been here longer than everybody else. He's never asked us to do anything that he hasn't done himself or wouldn't go do, or he hasn't come out and helped us do.
Hmm.
Um, in the He doesn't so much now, but he used to go out on Friday nights, either Friday or Saturday nights, and he would work a swing shift, and he was taking calls as the sheriff while he still had deputies out there, and he was in call rotation. And if it was a shit call and it was Sean's turn, Sean took the call. And I see surrounding areas, they do not have that leadership.
Yeah.
They don't have the guy that would go and do that.
So kind of lead by example then.
Yes.
Interesting. How about I'm assuming during your career you've probably gotten in trouble before.
No. No, sir.
how does how does Sean deal? Obviously he's got to deal discipline wise because he's the guy in charge. What has been your experience when you've gotten in trouble as opposed to, maybe another supervisor? How does he deal with that?
Um, it's been a different situation between me and him because he's had me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's different conversations that have gone on between me and him than which I'm okay with. Like I said, he's had me since I was a kid, and the expectations are one thing, and when it's that close, there's other things that get said.
Yeah, so maybe it's more like almost like a parent.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so getting back to the Jerome jail. You're 19 years old, you start there. What are you doing in the jail?
We were just booking people in, just processing people,
Okay.
maintaining the security of the jail. I was bailiffing a little bit, hauling prisoners back and forth to court.
Is that a boring job? Not the hauling people back and forth, but just in general working at the jail.
Not at that time, no. It was usually hopping. We very seldom had nights where we didn't book somebody in. Fridays and Saturdays, you're probably going to have a Donnybrook at some point
Hmm.
over someone being drunk and not wanting to be processed in, or
How big is the jail at that point?
uh, there was one, two, I think there were 8 cells,
Okay.
and the eighth cell I think would hold maybe 15,
Oh,
and some
okay.
of the other cells would hold 6 or 7.
Okay. So on average in a small community here with the size of your jail, how often was the jail full?
I think we were always full. I think that we were one of the jobs that I had there towards the end of my time there was transporting people, and I was going somewhere every day to haul inmates from other jails and to go to court.
Hmm. How did it work if you guys became, I mean, if you're always full, I've got to assume at some point there's a point where you've got too many people to house at your jail. In those situations, where do those people get housed if they can't go to Jerome at the time?
I made a lot of transports to Bannock County,
Mm.
lots to Cassia County.
So you house them at a different jail.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so you're basically there for how long?
I was there about 6 months.
6 months, and then you go to Wendell.
Yeah.
And Wendell is a very small town around here, and you're on patrol.
Yes.
How old are you then? 20?
20,
So have they
20, 21, somewhere in there.
okay. So that was my question. At 2021, let's just say it's 20. I don't know if it is. But at 20, you can carry a gun as a patrol officer in Idaho.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they had all the rules that they've got now over ages and carrying guns.
Okay. So how big is the Wendell Police Department?
Yeah.
How big is it?
There was 4 of us and a chief.
Okay. How do you end up there?
They had an officer that wasn't going to be allowed to go into post, so they had a position opened, and I took a $50 a month pay cut to go to the road from the jail in Jerome.
And I think you said, if I'm not mistaken, a $50 pay cut, and the person at like the local gas
At
station was
Maverick,
making more
yeah,
than you.
the nighttime clerk at the Maverick was making more an hour than I was.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, so you describe Wendell as kind of like the wild, wild west. Everything's happening. So what's
Yeah.
going on there?
There was not like one family, but several families of, I don't want to say career criminals, but not exactly the best people in the world. And they were up to no good as soon as the sun went down. There was something to do there every single night.
So give me an idea what kind of crimes.
Uh, you absolutely could get a DUI every night.
Okay.
There in the city. And if you got a DUI, you're probably going to pull some drugs out of it. I worked there for about 6 months. I think I was in 5 pursuits that were over 100 miles an hour. One of them, I was chasing a guy and he tipped his Jeep over in someone's yard in the city. I got him arrested. I got him pulled out of the car and I got him put in handcuffs. And this is the small town cop deal that happens. I got him put in the back of my cop car, and I checked pursuit on the radio, so I had some county guys coming to help me. And the first guy got there, he said, "What do you got?" And I said, well, "I got so and so," and I got him hooked up in the back of my car, and went back of my car, and he wasn't in the back of my car. He said, "No, he's not." And I said, "Yeah, he is." He said, "No, he's not." I said, "Yes, he is." He said, "No, he's not," and shined his light in there. So we had to share patrol cars at that time. And the guy that I worked with had taken his family down to the store, and the kid couldn't get out of the back of the car with the child lock on, and the windows had to be rolled down because it was summertime.
Oh.
So we got the guy caught again. I didn't get my handcuffs back, but that kind of stuff would go on as far as having pursuits. I had a pursuit one night with a car that it was a very poor film, but we got film footage of this guy throwing a brick through a glass door at a Chevron down in Hagerman and stole 2 cases of beer. The alarm went off, and I'm coming out of Wendell to go help the county, and the county's coming out of Bliss. Well, they blow by me at like 80 miles an hour. It's been long enough ago, I don't remember, but I think it was like 80 and a 50. Well, I think that's the car. I flipped around and had a car chase, recovered the beer. When the guy got out of the car and ran on me, but I could see who it was, and I called it out on the radio. So we got him, got the beer back. He didn't get a drink any of his beer.
So I always ask this, Alex. So you're starting on patrol. You're super young. How was your first day? How was your first day on patrol? What's going through your mind if you can remember that kind of the first time?
Uh, so the training at that time was you get tossed a set of keys, don't wreck it, don't arrest anybody unless you got to. And my very first day of working for the city of Wendell, Uh, the chief was riding around with me just so we could kind of know each other. And we got called to a vicious dog. And I thought we were going to have to shoot the dog. Before it was all said and done, I thought, this is cool. This small town, and it's this exciting, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to shoot a dog, but you got to pull your gun out to protect yourself. And, you know, just at the time, it was like, this is, it's all right.
How about when you're on patrol by yourself though, for the first time? What are you thinking then?
Um,
Especially with the limited amount of training that you had.
so I can tell you the very, very, very first call that I had with the county when I came to work over here, I was by myself, and it was a kid that had died from SIDS. And I got to the house, and I'm running everything through my head. Okay, we got somebody that's dead here. I got to lock the scene down. We got stuff to do, and it was so chaotic. It was just it was, oh God, I'm new. I don't know what to do. But Sean came out. Sean was listening to the radio. Sean came out and helped deal with everything. But that was my very first call for the county.
So when you start with Gooding County, it's 2002, and you and I chatted about this before we started recording. It's a really unique situation when you're working for a small department like this because you've been on, at this point in your career, you've been on patrol for 18 years, but you've been a detective for 5. When in reality, you've probably been a detective for 23 years.
Right.
And can you explain how it works here? Because you guys, not necessarily, well, you guys don't have, I don't want to say short staffed. You have the staff that you need for the sheriff's office, but explain how it works even on patrol. What are you doing?
So then you took all your calls and uh, you enforced traffic laws. In Gooding County, even now, is probably the last county in the state of Idaho that is fighting the war on drugs. We will, in fact, arrest you if we catch you with a marijuana pipe. That's so. Um, we handled all of that stuff.
Hold on, let me ask you. I want to ask you real quickly. Sorry to interrupt. You're fighting. You're fighting here. You will still arrest people for a marijuana pipe. Is that because of Sean? Is that because the prosecutor? Is that because the community? Is that because, tell me why you guys for Gooding County are still basically,
It's everything that you just said.
okay.
Uh, we have a mindset in this office that if you control the drugs, you can kind of have a very good handle on the rest of the crimes. Um, I, the sheriff wants the community treated right. And by treating them right, if they get victimized by a crime, we need to go in there and be able to handle it. If you get your stuff stolen, we need to do everything within our power to get it back. So if you are doing your part over fighting the drugs, methamphetamine addicts, very seldom are they not in possession of something stolen at some point in their career of using meth. It's That's just the way that it is. Uh, I can give an example of I arrested a person for a marijuana pipe. I interviewed them, got to the next person, got a meth pipe. I interviewed them, and that was, I did 8 hours with that person interviewing them. And when we ended on that 8 hours, Derek wrote a search warrant and we hit a pound of meth. And that all started off of a marijuana pipe.
So Alice, give me an idea, if you know, around the community surrounding Gooding, are they not as concerned about the drugs as you guys are? Don't have that same philosophy?
The community has supported us overwhelmingly. And I think you see that in our sheriff because we've only had one person ever run against him. I'm not saying that we're keeping everybody happy, but I think that the community sees that we're trying and doing the best that we can. And so they've been very supportive over the position that the sheriff has and his deputies
So,
over narcotic use.
okay, so do you think that when you guys are enforcing the law here, and we talked about the community, the sheriff, the prosecutors are all behind you guys, what is it in the other communities surrounding you that they don't have? Is it no community support, or is it the prosecutors, or the sheriff? What do you think that is?
I think it can be a combination of all of it.
Okay.
It's the acceptance of some drugs is headed this way. Slowly but surely, it's going to get here.
Right.
At this point, our community is still saying no, we don't want it. We don't want our kids in it. And obviously, it's not everybody, but a majority of the community feels that way.
Okay. 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 So getting back to Gooding County, explain to me, you were in the middle of explaining to me how it's kind of a unique situation where even if you're on patrol, you're not really on patrol. Tell me about how it works here.
So it is different now. We have 3 detectives now. Chris Nod takes all of the sex crimes. Derek deals with the drugs, and I deal with the rest of it. And we all work together. If Chris gets overwhelmed, for example, less than a month ago, he took 12 child molestation cases in one day. He caught 12 in one day. So Derek,
Separate, not
yeah.
like a, holy crap.
So Derek and I threw in and took some of the caseload off of that. If we have larger cases that go on, murders such as that, we all throw in. The Gooding City detective throws in and helps us in situations like that. Drug cases that that we're doing search warrants on, the Gooding City guy will come over and help us with that. So now the patrol guys, if it's a misdemeanor, they're going to investigate it. If it's a felony that's not like a bad check or something like that, they're going to investigate it.
Mm.
Larger burglaries, they're going to come to us.
But when you started, so like you had been on the job for about 3 years, and you ended up catching a missing person,
Right.
and that was just on patrol, and you were like, and they told you got to investigate it. So tell me about that case and what happened.
So I was working on patrol, and I got a call about a missing person, and this guy's sister had said, "This gal's missing, and I think my brother killed her." So yeah, why is that? Well, we went into his house, and he's burning her clothes. Really? Yeah, come here and look. She walked me over to where the guy had been staying. He wasn't living there at that time, and opened up he had a little pot-bellied stove, and there were buttons from jeans in it. That's weird. So this guy was with another gal at this point, and he ended up having a domestic with her. And the guy that's our chief deputy now called me one morning. This is a month or so down the road. Says so and so just had a domestic, and she told me that he had told her that he killed his last wife, and it would be nothing for him to kill her. I'm thinking, oh gosh, now what do we do? So this was in 2005. Internet's kind of just getting going pretty good, and I did everything I could to try to locate that gal, and I couldn't find her. I got a hold of her family out in Kansas City. I asked them who I could talk to, who's the last one to talk to her, the whole bit. Can't find her. Now I got to go talk to him. And he was living in Idaho County at the time. So me and another deputy drove up there and just kind of played dumb, where's she at? She got mad and she just left one day and just, I don't know. She just gone. Would you guys get divorced? Didn't think I needed to. She was just gone. Okay. Oh, well, talk to you later. And in the meantime, the family out in Kansas City had sent me out a box that had all the letters that this guy had wrote to this gal in the past when he would send her home. They'd get in a fight and put her on a bus, ship her back to Kansas City. And I had a big box full of letters. And it talked about all the, if you're going to come back, you're going to do this, and you're going to wear makeup, and you're not going to argue, and you're going to have my dinner ready when I come home, and my clothes are going to be, and it was just like, I don't think you're supposed to talk to people like that. Um, so I went through all the letters, and I'm thinking, there's correspondence between these two. And this last time, there's no correspondence. So we went, we're going to go back to Idaho County, and the girlfriend came back to Wendell, and he had shot at her and had punched her out. She was beaten up pretty badly, and she called to make a complaint. And I went out and talked to her. She said he shot at me with this pistol. He keeps it here. He's got a marijuana grow out here, and he told me that he killed his wife, and it would be nothing for him to kill me. And now he shot at me, and he's beaten me up. So I knew he was a convicted felon. And I got a hold of Idaho County and said, hey, maybe we come up a little bit earlier, and this is what's going on. So I went up and they put me in front of a judge, and I swore out a search warrant. We went, and the judge put an arrest warrant on him at that time for $1 million. And we rolled in there, and the detective from Idaho County went in and talked to him first, and I was just kind of standing behind him, and he said, this kid's not going away. You need to tell him, because he knows. And then he did. When I went in there and talked to him, he told me. I was like, oh my God. And he said that he'd got home from work and she wasn't home. She'd been at a party, and he said, I sat there, and the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got. She come home, strangled her. Well, how long did you choke her for? He said, about 7 minutes. Okay. Where's she at? And I had to call Sean and say, hey, he said he did it. He what? He said he did it. Buried out in the wrecking yard. So he put Derek up in an airplane and started taking pictures. And we didn't have emails that you could send pictures on. They were faxing pictures. And so it was horrible. The pictures that we were getting. Showed him the pictures, and he put an X on it. And we found her right there. And she was wearing the clothes that he said that she was wearing. And he said that when he had put her in the hole to stuff her in, he said, I think I broke her leg. Her leg was broke. And when we exhumed her, we got every bone back except for the hyoid bone. And the pathologist said that is if you have someone that's strangled, your hyoid bone will break, and it's the first to decompose. So this goes hand in hand with what he said that he had done.
How remorseful was this guy?
I don't know that he was.
It just sounds like he's telling you this as a matter of fact.
It was just, this is what happened. And I think he just he just got out of prison a couple years ago, and he's already had some domestics called in on him.
Wow.
Same statements over killing people,
Is he living here in the county?
and in one of the adjoining counties.
Luckily, it's not your
Right.
issue.
Right.
So tell me about it. It seems like there's definitely an issue here with husband and wife stuff. Tell me about that the murder of the husband and wife thing we were talking about.
Um, so Derek and I got called out south of Wendell for a guy that he had a lane going up to his house, and he'd been shot several times in the head and the face, and uh, we started doing a little investigating, and it was the suspect had believed that this guy had been sleeping with his wife. His wife um, was a clerk, and thought that this guy was having relations with his wife, and the guy wasn't. That he, for whatever reason, however he got onto it, he never really went into it with me over what all led up to it. Uh, the reason that we knew that the accusation of the infidelity was there was because the wife told me.
Mm.
But she said it wasn't me; it was the other clerk that he was. So he shot somebody he shouldn't have.
So
Absolutely.
killed the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so you keep talking about Derek, and I wanted to talk to you about, because I haven't got a chance to speak with somebody about kind of partners and how you end up working with people. And obviously in a bigger department or a bigger agency, you kind of gravitate toward people that um, a lot of times that you like, or that you have some sort of commonality and stuff. It- Tell me a little bit about how partnerships in a small department like this work. Um, how long have you and Derek been partners together?
Um, well, for investigation wise, as far as my position of being a detective,
Hmm.
it's been 5 years, but he and I worked hand in hand when I was on patrol. I would, one of the things that I would do, some of the younger guys aren't ready for this style of investigating. I'd go and sit on a house, and I would sit there and I'd wait. If we had information on a house, I'd sit on the house and wait until somebody left. And then if I had something that I could stop them for, if I had probable cause to stop them, then I would stop them. Derek would come up, and we'd try to get consent to search on the car. And we got a lot of dope that way. Um, so probably it'd be safe to say over 20 years, he and I have worked pretty much hand in hand together.
Yeah. So how does that partnership work? Do you guys share work? Do you divide up and say, "Hey, I'm good at this, and you're good at this, and I want you to do this"? How does it work between you and Derek?
So from day one, I keyed my uh, career towards speaking with people, interviewing them. Uh, I wanted them to, I wanted to be able to talk to people and get them to tell me their secrets, and some of those are dark secrets. And so I, he'd turn me loose on the talking, and then if there were search warrants to write, Derek wrote the search warrants, and Derek handles. He's like the case manager when we go out on scenes as far as search warrants. He's the one overseeing making sure that everything's going okay, that the evidence is getting logged correctly, that it's being photographed correctly. Um, and I'm scooping people up and taking them to the office so that we can talk.
Hmm. So fair to say, I think you guys have a pretty good relationship now, but that always hasn't been the case,
Oh,
right?
absolutely not. No, God, no.
How did how does it start off where it's, maybe you guys aren't seeing eye to eye on something or whatever else, but how does it start from there to a good working relationship that you guys have now?
I matured
Okay.
is a big part of it. I was very young when I started,
Okay.
and we were shagging our own cases. And so if he would come in and have some kind of a critique,
You didn't like that.
I'm working it or you're working it. You tell me.
Yeah.
And that was the wrong approach. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I got some age on me and a little bit more experience, and I could look at kind of what he was saying, and that opened up a lot of doors between me and him as far as our relationship goes.
Was there any mentorship from like Sean, for example? I mean, it seems like you guys kind of have almost a family relationship. Did he ever pull you aside and go, "Hey, dude, come on," anything like that?
He's fired me about 3 times. So yeah, we've had a couple of those conversations.
Okay.
Uh,
All
yeah.
right. Okay. Fair enough. Um, Tell me about, okay, so most people who are watching this, I'm going to assume they probably know what a dairy is, but they don't really get it, understand it. So first of all, you have a lot of dairies in Gooding County.
Yes.
Tell me, just give me a really brief idea of what a dairy is.
The dairies are where the milk is processed from the cows for you to get milk, cream, cheese, milk products.
Okay. And you guys have quite a few here.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so tell me about the dairy robbery case.
So one night we had a couple carloads of people that were out having a good time, just whooping it up, drinking, and one of our deputies stopped them, and the driver was drunk, so he had to come to town. Well, the other guys didn't want the party to end, but they got to have their buddy because they're buddies. Well, some of them had worked out on some dairies, and it was payday. There's a pile of cash on these guys. Let's go rob them. And so they went around and they robbed. It's been some time ago. I think they robbed like five dairies. Just the guys working in the dairies.
So they
the
were
milkers.
just, what did they do? Did they just go there and
Walk into the parlor where they're milking the cows and stuck guns in their faces and give me your monies.
wow? On average, I'm just curious. I mean, they go through the process of this. How much money do you think they're making when they're robbing these dudes?
Um,
I mean, is it a couple hundred? Is it a couple thousand? I'm just wondering why go through
it's
the risk.
probably between 800 and $1,200
Okay, okay,
a go.
but they're literally sticking guns in people's faces,
Yeah.
going, "Hey, give us your money." Okay, so how does that case progress then?
So the victims in it had told us that in their statements that two of the kids were African Americans, and there aren't a whole lot of African Americans in Gooding County, but we had 2 brothers that lived in Wendell. So I found this out and I thought, this is easy. And I drove over to Wendell and scooped one of them up, took him to the police department and started talking to him. And the guy confessed. He said, yes, I did it. Uh-huh. Good deal. My phone rang, and it was one of our civil deputies. And she said, I don't think you got the right guy. There's 2 guys that have been coming in and out of a cornfield that I'm living next to that match the description of the African Americans that you took over this. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's a house right there, and this is who's living in that house. Well, I knew that the name off the house, that there were 2 boys that were involved in this that were living in that house. Hold on. I went in there and I looked at that kid and I said, you lied to me. You goddamn lied to me. He said, yeah. I said, you're going to eat 5 armed robberies. You have at least 5 felony charges on you and go to prison. Why would you do that? I needed the street cred.
Street cred. Were, just out of curiosity, the two that you were initially dealt with, the one who confesses and then the two that you ultimately arrested, were they originally from Idaho?
The first family that
Mm-hmm.
that I had dealt with, they weren't from Idaho. I think the other two were, but they were from a different county.
I'm just, the reason I ask is they're talking about street cred. Street cred for what? Street cred for,
Right, for robbing five milkers
but
in
like,
Wendell, Idaho.
yeah, right. But I'm assuming they're not part of a gang. So what
Right,
street cred are you getting? I mean, it'd be one thing if you're like, you're up here from California and I did this, but that's not the case with these
right.
guys.
Yeah, no, nobody cares in Wendell.
Crazy.
It was. I couldn't believe that he was gonna take the rap on that because street cred in Wendell, Idaho.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's
Right.
not Chicago.
Right. Okay, so one thing that I think is very is unique here with you in the county as well is that I think you have to have a little bit of experience, a little bit of knowledge. Obviously, you're working with dairies, you're working around cows, but just in general, kind of having this farm working with animal experience. Can you talk about the guy who couldn't get the horse moving?
We had a we had a deputy that hated dealing with horses. Uh, he just it was his bane, and he got called to a horse out, and I was working with him, and I better head out there and help him. And he he got the horse cornered and had a rope around its neck, and just as I got there, that horse ran right over the top of him, drug him through the sagebrush. And I got out there and I said, "What happened?" So got out here and I got the rope around the horse's neck, and he wouldn't move. Took the end off my taser. And I just kind of like a hot shot, just kind of cattle prodding him a little bit, and he moved a little bit, and then he stopped, and I give it to him again, and he said that third time he'd had enough. Boy, he ran right over the top of him, and he didn't let go of the rope, and he got dragged through the sagebrush for a little bit.
Did you get hurt bad?
No, he didn't get hurt, but he had to go home and change his clothes. He'd ripped his pants, and it was
Just a little bit of knowledge about animals, I
yeah,
guess. I mean, oh, that's funny. Okay, so for the audience, if it's kind of a unique terrain around here with respect that, for example, is it called the Bridge, Perrine Bridge?
the Pine Bridge.
Prime Bridge. Okay,
Yeah,
so this is a pretty famous area for base jumpers to go and jump off of the bridge. I don't know what 500 feet, 1,000 feet, something like that.
463, I think, is what it is.
And it goes over. Is it over the Snake Canyon?
Yeah,
And
Snake
that's the
River.
one that Evil Knievel jumped over.
Yeah,
Okay.
they tried.
Okay, so my point about this whole rambling is there's a lot of steep canyons around here. And
Right.
so every once in a while you have to maybe deal with a suicidal subject. And
Yes.
can you talk about the best fight you ever had with a female?
Uh, so the guy with the horse, he and I worked together an awful lot on the road. Uh, he covered swing shifts on the weekends, and we get called one night out to the gorge, the Mlad Gorge. It's a state park there outside of Tuttle, and the call was there's a suburban that's parked there with the doors open, playing Irish dirges, and the reporting party couldn't see anybody around, and Dave was closer than I was, and I'm headed that way, but he's closer. He's going to get there. Probably nothing. So he gets there and checks out with the car, and dispatch does a security check on him, and he doesn't answer. Call him again. He doesn't answer. Call him again. It's not the best radio reception out there, anyhow. But I got on the radio and I said, "Who's that plate come back to?" And they told me, and I went, "Oh shit!" It's somebody that we had dealt with quite a little bit, and so I stepped it up pretty hard and got out there, and Dave wasn't on his knees begging, but he was begging her to come off the side. She was sitting on the side of the, not where the bridge is. She was sitting on the rocks, and he was begging her, "You ain't got to do this. There's people that love, everything that you're supposed to say to talk people out of doing what they think they need to do." And she didn't see that I was there at that point, and I'm watching her. I thought, you know what? I got a lariat in my car. I'm gonna rope her and I'm gonna rip her off the side. And I just turned around to go get my rope, and she saw me, and she says, "You got a cigarette?" I said, I don't smoke." She said, "Well, will you go up to my Suburban and get me some smokes? Give me a smoke." Yeah. I went up to her Suburban and I tossed the smokes. I went back and I said, I can't find them. She said, "Yeah, about like a goddamn man can, probably right there in front of you." She went up and she found them. She lit that cigarette up and looked at me and she said, "Now we're going back." I said, "No, we're not." And a fight ensued. And it was me and the other deputy that was fighting this gal. I had a civilian rider that got out to help us fight. And I don't even know where my radio ended up. So we weren't answering the radio. Dispatch called Derek to come out and help. And he drove from his house in Jerome. So there at the interstate in Jerome is the 168. We were at the 147. And however far back Derek lives, he got there and he got to fight her with us too. And it took all of us to get her hooked up and taken in.
Wow.
Toughest woman I've ever been around in my life, hands down.
Okay, Alex, last two questions I always ask. Has law enforcement affected your family?
Absolutely.
In what way?
There was a lot of stuff that my kid didn't get to do because dad knows things. And she was very good about it. I could say, "I know something about this," and the answer is no, and it was fine. But there was a lot of stuff that she got to miss out on. There was a lot of stuff that law enforcement, with my dad being in it, that I missed out on.
Any resentment from your daughter over that stuff?
I don't think so.
Yeah, she just kind of figured it out.
As time went on and whatever the event was, had some distance, I would go in and say, "Look, here's the deal. This is why I said no."
Yeah.
And if there's resentment, she hasn't shared that with me.
How about the long hours and stuff? Affect your family that way?
Yeah. Yeah. I did a stint where I did almost 5 years straight on nights to help out another deputy because his mom was ill. And night shifts are hard on a family.
Yeah. So long hours and stuff, is there well, let me ask you this. When you got married, were you young? How long had you been on the job when you got married?
I got married in 2004.
Okay, so
3 years.
Had she experienced what you were doing before you got married? Did she know what she was getting into?
We lived together for a year before.
Okay.
We're not together now.
Okay.
That marriage lasted about a year.
Do you think that was because of the job, though?
Well, the court paperwork said irreconcilable differences.
Okay.
No, I think we both. Well, sure. I guess it could have been part of the job.
Okay.
A lot of it was me.
Okay.
A lot of it was her.
Okay. Are you married again?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Have a girlfriend now.
Okay.
and she's getting to see some of it.
Does she get it?
I think so. She's been very accepting towards.
Okay. I gotta imagine though, it's a little bit easier as you're older in your career, not just because you're a little bit more stable with the detective stuff, because the detective stuff could be chaotic hours as well, but you're just a little bit more mature and just kind of know how to maybe deal with relationships a little bit better as in combination with the job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you would you would think that with the practice that deputies have with going in and refereeing domestics all the time, that they'd kind of get an idea, probably shouldn't say this to them, shouldn't say this to my wife, probably shouldn't do this. Uh, you'd think that we'd have a perfect marriage rate. I don't think cops do. I, I think that you get that first one out of the way, and maybe the second one will stick. Maybe the third one.
How about this? Um, can you look back on when you started your career in the jail till now? Has your attitude toward people in society changed?
Yeah,
What way?
it's not good. Uh, I think that people in their mind outside of this job look for the good in people, and I think probably if you do this job long enough, you don't look for that. You look for the other.
Hmm. So how do you deal with that mentally? You personally?
I It just is what it is. Uh, I Like I said, it's not good.
Yeah,
It's it's hard to trust anything that anybody says.
yeah,
It's There's always like, yeah, bullshit. What's the back end agenda here? What's the what's the angle that I'm not seeing here? That this is too good to be true, or
yeah. So when you look at your circle of friends, do you tend to surround your friends with other law enforcement people, or do you allow anybody in that isn't law enforcement?
um, I have a girlfriend.
Okay.
That's not my best friend. I got two best friends that one's a teacher and one's uh, one's actually the county coroner here,
Okay.
and the rest is law enforcement.
Yeah. Do you take advantage? We talked a little bit about the child molestation cases and stuff like that, and kind of the difference between this day and age and how your dad was and everything else. For for that, I don't know. I don't want to say a negative attitude, but for the attitude that you have toward people where you're looking at the bad versus good, do you ever take advantage of the EAP counselor and go in there and go, "Hey, help me work through this," or any?
I have in the past.
Okay.
The situation that we have now for the counseling for the guys,
Hmm.
honestly, is a joke.
Okay. Okay.
It's They get 3 sessions, and after that, there's no longer coverage for them, and they don't even know the person in 3 sessions. They basically get 3 hours with somebody, and you're supposed to pour everything out to them.
Right. I think that would be very
That's
difficult.
right.
So, how do you okay, two questions for you then. How do you personally deal with kind of the mental aspect of the job? And what advice would you have toward a younger person who's just starting to kind of maybe I don't know if you can ever necessarily avoid that negative attitude because it's just who we deal with on a day-to-day basis, but any advice to younger officers that are just starting?
Maybe don't stay in any one position too long. Get cycled out so that you're dealing with different things, different aspects of people. Larger agencies, you probably have options of uh, you can work in a jail for a little bit. You can probably go out and be a civil deputy for a little bit, go be a SRO for a little bit, go be a detective, go do patrol, go work on a narcotics team, just so that you're not eating the same diet every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
be willing to take up different assignments.
So how do you decompress?
Well, a lot of times you just drink about it.
Can't be good, right?
Right. You just push it down in your stomach and you don't ever think about it again. No, I've used the EAP in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really viable now, for
Has it?
what these guys need.
Yeah, but I mean, has it always been that? I mean, so when you say you get three sessions with EAP, has it always been that way, or has it been? Was there a time where it was better, where you could see more?
Yeah, there was a time that it was better.
Why did that change then?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no clue why
Okay.
it changed.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting chatting with you and chatting with Neil last week where, obviously Neil is so young, but his big thing is obviously physical fitness and working out, kind of blowing off stress that way. So, um,
Me too. I run and lifting weights and
oh, Alex, I really appreciate the interview. This has been great. Thank
yep.
you.
Thank you, sir.